So I'm sick, and I have been sick for a little while, and it has been a major reason in putting off doing this. And I am probably not going to be better for a few more days, but by then we'll be a little farther along than I would like to get this done. So I'm going to record this now. I apologize. But anyway, I am here today to talk about 3 episodes 14, 15, and 16, which are essentially the full debut arc of Ryusoulger Gold. Kanalo, I guess is officially how it's spelled. And I have to say, as a whole, as an arc, very good debut. Episode by episode, I think it got better with each one. I enjoyed all of them. I was not blown away by episode 14, but 15 and 16 did a lot for me. I think on a brief summary note, episode 14 felt a little expositional. It felt like just laying the groundwork. All we really got out of Kanalo was the finding a wife thing, and some personality is in there, like the way he talks to women and talks about what they deserve and who they should be with is a very, I'm gonna say chivalrous, but there is kind of an air of, I don't even know if arrogance is there, but he's very sure of himself and the way things should be and people should be treated. And there's while there is a womanizing quality to him, there is something almost melodramatic about it at times, which I find interesting. We also see him talk about things like the environment a lot, which makes sense being someone from the Sea tribe of the Ryusoul tribe. And that episode doesn't really get into his feelings about the main team and their tribe, which we get into in the future episodes. He just kind of says he doesn't want to work with them, which, heard that one before. It was a pretty simple debut. Finding him so quickly was kind of nice, though. I'm glad we got to the point with Ui, finding him in the park, just kind of being there. He is very powerful at the beginning, as a 6th Ranger usually is when they debut. I'm sure that very quickly he's going to be brought to the power level of pretty much everyone else so that group threats feel like group threats, as they will. His debut fight wasn't my favorite of a debut fight, and it was just kind of because this show's choreography strength has been in a lot of its hand-to-hand movement, and while it's there is something taken away a little bit when his main weapon is a gun. And he doesn't really do a lot of like gun fu stuff, which wouldn't make sense as a fighting style anyways for a knight. You know, once he brought the sword out, I mean sword in air quotes because it's short, and like did some of the crazy lightning effects, that was cool. And his finisher with his armor is really cool, but like that fight was like good but not great in my head. I think the fights in the future episodes when the other team members are getting incorporated, but even when it's just him, I think overall those feel just better and better choreographed, and I just kind of think that's how they fell. I do think the following episodes are better. Bringing his sister in is a good touch. I think having another sibling relationship, but one of them isn't on the team and is noticeably younger. She's only 123, guys, or like 132 or whatever. It's different than Bamba Toa because Toa is, there to also fight. This is a very purely protective thing, but she's also kind of like very willing to be like, screw you, brother, and go and do her own thing. Oto's adorable. I think the strength of this arc came in those later 2 episodes when Kanalo and Oto are interacting with the team, and you get little moments like that one scene in I think episode 16 when they're all just kind of sitting in like the plastic chairs outside and just sort of talking, and Oto is like kind of flirting with Melto and he doesn't know, and they're just being people. That is one of my favorite things in this show as a whole, is I think there's a big strength in when these characters are just being people and talking to each other. I think that is where a lot of the strength comes from. Everyone's got solid character traits, but they meld together, and that gives them that like third dimension they need to feel like I'm watching a world where people exist and not 2D heroes with swords. On a general character note, not much to say about the main team. Ko did a little more of the talking with Kanalo, and there was the magnet thing where it was the 2 of them. But I feel like he's Kanalo. He kind of interacted with all of the team about as well as he could. Banba and Toa have been keeping up that thing where they don't hang out with everyone all the time, but they show up when they're needed, and usually end up being in most of the episode anyways, so little less there, but overall, I think there's a good cast synergy still. Minor thing, I could do with more gold in the opening. I am a weird stickler about making sure the 6th Ranger feels equal in a Sentai team. I don't like when they feel like they're these separate characters who aren't part of the team. That was a very early 6th Ranger thing, and part of that was because it was a new thing they probably were figuring out, but when newer shows do it, it bugs me, and he's integrated very well writing-wise. This is little things like just, man, he could be in like 2 more scenes in the opening sequence, and I'd be much happier. But overall, I think everyone interacted well. Character-wise, no one had any big moments on their own aside from Kanalo, really. There were some notable interactions. Oto asking Melto to help her have descendants. Oh boy. But that's a funny bit, and I would not mind that keeping up the whole time. Just little stuff that makes them feel like the people we've been watching, and this new person hasn't disrupted that. All of that just felt really nice. I will say on a side character note, Ui and her dad, who I still don't know his name. I feel like they've kind of settled into, lately the dad has been like, yes, I've vaguely heard of the thing you're talking about, and he gives a little bit of advice. Ui is still kind of comic relief, and I feel like she's actually been a little lessened lately, and maybe it's because, we were just watching a new team member, so you can't focus that much, but I wonder if she's gonna settle into this role, or if she'll be upfront a little more. Like, she found Kanalo, so not to say she's not doing anything, but then in like the following episodes, I felt like she wasn't there much, and that's okay. On the villain side of things, I still love Weisel. I love him so much, and I'm glad he's sticking around, at least for one more episode when I record this. Who knows? I also like Gachileus, and I like Gachileus because he is a better Tank Joe. He is just as evil. He is just as baritone. He doesn't take crap, but he is more deceptively evil. Deceptively might not be the right word, but he schemes, and he's more interesting when he's being evil. He also has a personality quirk that works on twofold, which is that weird, like, question asking thing he does in most of his answering and speaking, and sometimes it can be very threatening, and sometimes it's a joke, and the fact that it works for both is really good villain writing. And I don't know if he's actually dead. If he is gone, that sucks. Being a submarine was also weird, but I like him, and he's also voiced by Doggy Kruger, and he is doing basically the same voice. Meanwhile, Creon is having a bad time. It's weird how every villain kind of pushes different buttons with Creon, although Weisel's probably treated him the best. Not a high bar, but the best. The buckets were unfortunate. That's about all I want to say on that. And then also on a character note, Mosa Rex seems cool. The grudge and the past of the Ryusoulger, like, civil war, seemingly, is very interesting. It seems like it's going to be a continuous thread for at least a little longer. But another fully sentient, intelligent Kishiryu is cool. It is at a point now where I kind of wish they all could talk, because Tiramigo, is pretty much at the same level of verbosity as Dime Volcano and Mosa Rex, but they're cool. A Mosasaur in general is really cool in Dino Sentai. We've never had that. We had, a Plesiosaur once in Kyoryuger, but beyond that, this is very different and very neat. And with that, I guess I'll transition into kind of more the surface level stuff. Design-wise, gold looks good. It's gold and blue, and there's lightning. I know it's kind of Kyoryu Gold, but like, gold and blue's been done before Kyoryu Gold. The lightning I can excuse a little less, I suppose, but I don't super care at this point. I feel like all the Kyoryuger comparisons have become pure window dressing at this point because the show feels different. And honestly, I do feel like this show has borrowed from every Dino Sentai, so I'm fine. Moza Rex also looks good, and Kishiryu Neptune is really cool. I will say, I do feel like we are kind of drifting away from the very fast-paced, energetic mech fights. They're not bad, and they're not super slow, but, with Neptune, you have underwater as kind of the reason. There was a little more, like, cutting, I noticed, just between, like, attacks, and you don't see a lot of the movement in between. And, even we just came off of, the Dime Volcano upgrade, which was, a gunner thing. I mean, it has the swords, but I do feel like we're maybe getting to this point where as we get more stuff in the show, they're gonna drift away a little from the more nimble forms of Kishiryu. And I don't know how the upgrades will do, because from scans, if you've seen them, we're not getting like the big clusters where like the mecha are gonna be every mecha we have combined. It looks like they're just gonna be combining the main mecha, quote unquote. So if that's happening, I'm a little okay with that, but I really hope we don't end up dipping into standard Sentai action for the mecha, if that makes sense. The action on the ground has still been great. Like I said, I think the action with Gold actually got better pretty much every episode, and everyone else is doing cool stuff. It's swords and Ryusouls. I did really appreciate in the fight with the Minosaur when Gold debuted how every Ryusoul didn't work, and there's even like, I think Melto says like, are there Ryusouls we haven't tried? Because if something does bug me about the show, it's that the Ryusouls kind of become a catch-all to fix everything at times, so them failing was kind of nice. On the Minosaur note, we're also at a point, Ryusoulger's in a little bit of a hole, and I don't think this detracts from the show, but they've established it's a show where the monsters are born from individual people. So when you write an episode that isn't directly tied to that victim, but you need a new monster, you kind of shove them to the side. And it's not the worst thing. Again, there's so much going on with the characters that are important that I like that it doesn't really matter to me. But at times, it's like, man, if they had a way to make a monster without needing a host, then I wouldn't have to learn about Magnet YouTube Man. Also, that Magnet Minosaur, I do have to say, one, that's a trope we've seen before in Sentai Monsters. But how did anyone survive those falls? How did anyone... Like, those normal people went very far. That would kill a man. I'm worried. Regardless, I do think by the end, Kanalo and Moza Rex coming around was really cool, and it felt earned, it felt good. The water telepathy's neat, but, it was 3 episodes of character growth, but it felt real. It didn't feel rushed, and I think that was very important. I think his sister is a good catalyst for that as well. I wonder how much this, like, civil war in the tribe is going to carry into further plots beyond just getting Gold in. I wonder if it will. The Elder would have been a good character to throw in for any of this, because he could have been very enlightening, I'm sure. And I wonder if they purposely didn't use him, or if there was a real life behind the scenes reason that they didn't have that character in. But I think overall a solid 6th Ranger debut for what is becoming and remains a very solid show in Super Sentai. There's still plenty to learn about. Still got villains going about. Guy Sorg's still hanging. We know there's still more toy stuff coming, and we'll have to see how that ties into plot stuff. But yeah, it is continuing to be a good time. Very much enjoying it. Hope you are as well. And I want to thank you very much for dealing with my ever-changing quality of voice as I sit here congested and recording regardless. Next up, episode 17 looks to be standalone. If I feel better and can get around to it, I would like to do that one by itself. Life's kind of crazy, so who knows? Until then, I want to thank you all for listening, putting up with me, and until then, I will catch you next time.